Welcome to Candice podcast, the number one podcast for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs.
Hello and welcome to Manitoba's podcast with Mario Tanaguzzi on Canada's podcast network. Joining me today is Candice Bakx-Friesen, who is a realtor, an entrepreneur, a money coach, and a speaker. Thanks for joining us today, Candice.
Thank you so much, Mario.
Well, you do a lot of things. Let's focus on a couple of things. Let me first talk about being a realtor and how long you've been a realtor in Manitoba. I also see you do some training of realtors in there. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, so I've been a real estate agent for about 13 years. And it's one of those careers that I think a lot of people look at it and they think from the outside, wow, that's exciting, and you get to drive around and show houses. But you sort of see the tip of the iceberg, like so many jobs and careers. That's just the tip of the iceberg, right? So yeah, it's a pretty involved career. It's something that you obviously work a lot of evenings and weekends. And so the biggest struggle with that, I think, in that type of business is just be able to manage home and life and how to integrate all that, right? So I've got 4 kids and obviously a very understanding and helpful husband to make that all work. But so that's what I do mainly, and then I do some coaching as well. So the coaching really came from giving back and wanting to help others find success as well. And so I help agents get started, whether that's from day one or whether they're looking to sort of take their business to the next level.
Okay, maybe again you talk a little bit about that of being a realtor. I think a lot of people have the nice notion in their head, right? They get the real estate license and I'm going to go out and I'm going to sell properties and I'm going to make a lot of money, right? But it truly is a business, isn't it? Because there's everything involved with being a business and your own entrepreneur. Can you talk a little bit about that? Just the business of being a realtor.
Yeah. For sure. That's a great question. What so many people think is that as a real estate agent, the company must give you leads and they help you do all this, but it really isn't. It's sort of like having a franchise where there's a name, right? There's Century 21, Remax, Royal LePage in my case, but you are really running the business. So they don't give you anything in terms of, they give you software and support in different ways.
Yeah.
But really you're running your own business. So you have the marketing hat one day and you've got the running around showing properties, the next minute. But you also have to do your strategic planning. You have to do your book work and everything else that's involved, much like any other entrepreneur where you're wearing all the hats.
That's a great point, because I remember there was a friend of mine who's an artist, a well-known artist in Calgary, does very, very well. But I remember him telling me that one day, saying, you know what? He said, Mario, I've got 2 jobs. He said, I've got the job of being an artist and painter, but I also have the business job, right? And I think a lot of people really don't understand that when it comes to entrepreneurship, right? Is that you do wear a lot of different hats, as you mentioned. So how do you do that? How do you, I guess, find the time in 24 hours to basically run 2 jobs?
Yeah, well, the big thing is that I've got a team of people helping me. And that's another thing, is that nobody finds success on their own, right? There's always people that will help you in different ways in your business, whether that's somebody who's saying, hey, I've got somebody who's looking to sell their house and they're sending you a referral, or hiring people to help you. So a bookkeeper or somebody who's helping me with marketing, and obviously running my household and the kids and all that stuff. Being a working woman, you still have to run all that as well. And like I said, I have a husband who's very on board, but some people don't, and or they're doing it by themselves, and that presents its own challenges when you're an entrepreneur, for sure.
Yeah. Now, you also mentioned in your bio that you're a money coach. Can you explain that? What is that?
Yeah. So a lot of people, you don't really learn a lot in school about finances. A lot of people, it was kind of a taboo subject growing up. And so you're just kind of expected to figure this stuff out. And yet money is everything in life, right?
Yeah.
it's part of all facets of life. And so you have, not really knowing what to do and not really knowing how to ask people. It's not a topic that comes up over dinner. Hey, how, what kind of mortgage did you get, or what are you investing in? It's one of those topics that people just kind of go wide-eyed, like, we're not supposed to be talking about this. So you're supposed to kind of figure this all out, but most people don't really know where to turn. People who sell investments will do some of that as part of their job, but sometimes people are like, well, do I trust this? Do I know whether they're just trying to sell me investments? And so it's just somebody who can look independently at what you're doing and offer advice. So it's sort of that peace of mind. So it's whether it's budgeting to looking at, some different investment opportunities, and then sort of making a bit of a plan, right? Because so often in life, we just kind of go through the motions. But if you could make a plan of what you'd like to actually accomplish in life, what are your dreams, what are your things that you're working towards, then you have a better chance of making it to, having those come up into fruition.
Yeah, and when you look, I guess this becomes even more important and increasingly important these days, right? With all the economic challenges we have out there with pandemic and other things, depending on what part of the country you're in, and the specific economic challenges there. When you look at the whole financial thing from a personal standpoint, even actually for entrepreneurs, what do they need to, where do they find information? Like where, you mentioned talking about school. Should we start teaching this stuff at a young age to kids so that they're not floored when they enter the real world and they're thinking about, what's a mortgage and type thing?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the sooner the better, because sometimes this stuff will come up in high school years in school.
Yeah.
But that's not really early enough. Like at that point already, a lot of teenagers kind of zone out, or they're like, I don't really need to know this. But when I started with my own kids, we started at age 4 talking about not necessarily money, but like, what's the value of working hard? You can pitch in too, because as a household, we run as a team. Everybody helps out.
Yeah.
And trade-offs, like, okay, well, I can buy you another Lego set, but does it make more sense that we give to a family who needs food right now, right? So there's these life lessons that you can teach and sort of sprinkle along the way.
So what's your background in this area?
So I was one of those nerdy kids. When I was like 12 years old, I came from an entrepreneurial background. And when I was about 12, I was like, okay, I can see people around me successful, but how am I going to figure this out? And so I started buying financial books and just figuring it out on my own. And then I went to university and got my Bachelor of Commerce as well, from the University of Manitoba. And so again, this is just kind of all come full circle, which happens so often in life. But, with helping people with houses, suddenly people are like, you know what? You know stuff about money, I can tell. So, and then they'd start asking me these questions. And I just realized there's such a need out there for people to figure out the money piece. And like I said, it affects everything. Like, you want to have strong relationships. You want to have a great marriage or partnership. And so part of the biggest issue in marriages is usually finances, right? So helping to have strong relationships, impacting the next generation coming up. And when you can have strong families, you also have strong communities as well.
Yeah. Candice, what do you like about being an entrepreneur?
I love that every day is different and you never know what you're going to get. Every day is it's a new challenge. It's new opportunities to help people to impact people's lives.
What don't you like?
Well, sort of the same thing, right? The challenge can be that you don't know what you're going to be doing in a couple hours later. So that can be challenging. If I'm just looking at myself in a bubble, that's one thing. But when you have kids and, our friends of ours, they know Candice might not be at dinner tonight when we have a get together with friends and things like that. So It can be challenging that you're constantly putting sort of other people first in this business. Being a realtor, you're always kind of running for everybody else. So it's challenging, but at the same time, the rewards are greater.
Yeah. When you look back at, say, your professional life, is there anything that's stuck with you in terms of advice on being a professional, being a business owner?
I think the biggest part of anything that's tough in life, whether that's business or personal life, is the consistency and making sure that you're showing up every day. It really is the hardest part. I compare it always to somebody working out at a gym, because that's easy for people to kind of recognize and to see that. But,
Yeah.
if I want to have a great body, I can't go to the gym once, right? And it's the same thing in life, right? If you want to have great relationships, if you want to have a great business, you have to show up and be consistent every day.
Yeah. No, that's true. And one of the things I think that many entrepreneurs learn as they travel through this journey is I guess, the lessons learned in failure, right?
Yeah.
What about yourself? Have you learned a lot of lessons when things aren't going so great?
Yeah, definitely. And like, we're always growing as human beings too, right? We're like, I'm not the same person I was when I was 18. And so, your business changes and you have just different challenges. So, when you're just starting out, you've got a lot of time. As you get really busy, then you have less time, but you now need to hire people to help you out. And so now you're dealing with employees and different challenges around that. And, you go from, well, I've never had somebody working under me, to figuring that out while you're still running your business, and scaling and all these different things. So I think it's definitely ongoing challenges. And, as much as you try and do your best, you're never going to say the right things. You're always right. And so just trying to figure out, all those different pieces, and people that work with you grow over the years. My assistant's been with me for 11 years. And so she's also changed. And so we grow together, just like any relationship.
I'm curious, over that time, was there any books that you read that helped you in terms of your business life?
To come up with some names off the top of my head, I'm not sure. I'm constantly looking at different business books. There's also things like there's TED Talks, and there's Goalcast, and there's so many amazing resources. Podcasts, it's a very new one right now, just over the last couple of years, of course. They've been growing leaps and bounds. There's just so much information out there. So I think part of the problem is that it's not hard to find information, but it's actually implementing it and making sure you do it, right?
So I guess it's important as an entrepreneur to stay on top of things and information, whether, obviously you're a realtor, you have to know what the market's like, right? And information about that, and just general economic trends, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and in any business, you're working in the business because you're the entrepreneur, but you're also need to make sure you're taking that time for working on your business. Like you said, what are the strategies? What do we want to accomplish in the next few months? Setting goals and accomplishing that. And
Okay. Well, these days everybody talks about sort of work-life balance, right? Out there. How would you say your work-life balance is these days?
So I hate the word balance. So I use the word work-life integration. I use that phrase because I think that's a little bit more appropriate for people. And I think work-life balance can give people that guilt, that everything's not this perfect piece of the pie. So it's definitely important to make sure that you have all the different areas of life covered, right? That you're taking care of your health, that you have great relationships with others and with your family. And I think part of it is just being really intentional. And so often we want life to be exciting and sporadic and fly by the seat of our pants, but then things don't work out as well, right? So whether that's planning date nights, and we can go out and actually go out to eat, or it's planning a one-on-one date with our kids, or whatever that looks like, but planning the dates and the times that matter, and then trying to work the work stuff around that.
Yeah. And what about in terms of your interests? What other interests do you have, obviously, besides your business and professional life and your family life?
Yeah. So much of the time is taken up with the kids because they're just you want to make them a priority, and their interests become what you sort of center your life around. But a big part of what really fills my cup, so to say, would be just to get together with others. And so I do a lot of coffee dates with friends and going out with friends and stuff. So that's been a big one for me. Obviously, spending time in the gym is important to me too, and again, taking care of yourself. So
Yeah. Okay, super
yeah.
then. Well, thanks for joining us today, Candice.
Thank you so much for the invitation.
Okay, great. That was Candice Bakx-Friesen, who is a realtor, entrepreneur, money coach, and speaker based in Steinbeck, Manitoba. This has been this has been Manitoba's podcast with Mario Toneguzzi on Canada's Podcast Network. Thanks for joining us today.